We need to start doing some like wine pairing shit or something. We need to become more knowledgeable so we can spread our knowledge onto the world.
We really should, instead of just being like, it smells like poison or it makes me wet.
It's none of our business. 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 It's none of our business.
Welcome to the It's Really None of Our Business podcast with Monica and Amanda.
This is a podcast where we open a cheap bottle of wine and we attempt to solve the problems of the world.
So how's your week been?
My week has been fine. It's just whatever. I was struggling with a hangover because of you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that about our relationship that I can do that too. Something interesting or weird or whatever happened to me this week. Well, so you know how we had that conversation? This is a few episodes back where we were talking about nature versus nurture. Like, do you remember that?
Yeah.
And we were talking about your adoption story, and I started doing a bunch of research on, like, I read that book that a friend of mine told me. It was like, fuck,
Raised as a dog or something.
yeah. We can we'll put it on in the show notes. But it really talked about trauma, like childhood, like how your personality changes through childhood trauma. Like if you weren't like the book talked about things like parents have a child and then they have to go back to work right away. And so what happens is they had hired a babysitter who did things like just left the kid in the crib all day and then left and went to work and then came back before the parents got home. So the child had no bonding for 8 hours a day. Like, so like we're talking like at a newborn, you have no bonding with somebody for 8 hours a day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like for a full year. So they would have bonding with parents.
That makes me want to cry.
Like on the weekends and after work, but basically they were left in a dark room anyways. And so what ends up happening is sometimes these people became violent killers. Sometimes they had it just totally affected them.
I have the book on hold at the library and it just became available yesterday. So I'm going to start reading it. I have so many questions, but I'm sure that the book answers them.
And the book is really well written. I did it in an Audible book and there was like that was one episode and there was like so many different, there was like a boy who was raised as a dog. So his mother gave him up at like a year old and he's living with his grandmother. And so he had nurture till he was about 2. And then from there, he was left to live with his grandmother's boyfriend because that was the only one that was there. And he seemed to have a really low mental capacity. And he put the child in a cage with the rest of his animals. So the only bonding he had was with dogs.
Wow.
So when he ended up in the hospital when he was quite young, like 6 years old. He was 6. And he couldn't stand because he was in a cage all the time, right? And he would just do things like make weird noises and throw his poop at the staff. Like, and he was in there for pneumonia and they didn't know they didn't know his living conditions. They thought he was just really mentally disabled. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't until they figured out what was going on that they had people working with him on trust and they had to treat him like a dog.
How is he now? Is he okay?
Yeah. Like because he was nurtured from the time he was 1 till 2, like there's some crucial period of time in your life that if you don't get it, you're done. Like it's like if you don't learn to see by the time you're so many months old or then you don't learn to see anymore. Like even if your eye works fine. And it's the same with bonding. Like if you don't learn to bond, then like, you know, when you look at your baby and you make faces and you coo, well, that's like this bonding experience that you have. And they learn to react to you. And if you don't have it, you lose it.
I cannot imagine having a baby and not wanting to do that with it. Like it's honestly, my heart is aching for that child. Like
and it's usually, and they talked, okay, there was another one where they talked about, he talked about this child who was brought in at 2 years old and she was like under 20 pounds, like, and they thought there was something wrong with her, like intestines because she wasn't gaining weight. And so they had her in the hospital for a month and with feeding tubes and tests. And the psychiatrist who went in to talk to them realized that the mother wasn't bonding with the child. So the child wasn't being touched properly, wasn't being, and she hadn't been either. She'd been in the foster care system her whole life and didn't know how. So the solution was to take both mother and child and put them in a foster situation together, like she was 20. And she learned how to nurture her baby. And that baby gained 10 pounds in 1 month. Just by being in a loving situation.
That's so crazy. If you think about it in terms of we're all animals and we evolved from apes and all that stuff. So that's like in the wild, if a baby wasn't being nurtured,
it would die.
It would just die.
That's what they say.
For humans, we just we don't die, but we become terrible people.
So they talked about the orphanages back in it was Russia or something, where it was sometimes children would just die. If you're not nurturing is something, it's it is a need. It's not something that we want this. It is if a baby does not receive any nurturing, they could die. And that's
so
fucking
interesting.
Crazy.
I can't wait to read the book.
Yeah, so I learned so much. It totally changed my mind over nature versus nurture to an extent, right? But I still believe that under normal circumstances, if you are nurtured, that you are born with a personality, right? I still do believe that. So back to my story, my mom, we probably haven't talked to my estranged brother. He was adopted at birth, didn't fit in with the family. I do not have one happy memory of my brother, a complete fucking dick. Yeah. So, my mother's been sending him things like birthday cards, every year she sends him a card, whatever. So this year, my mom is 82 years old, and we've talked about my relationship with my mother. It's not the best, but she just doesn't have the ability to connect with me on an emotional level, or him, obviously. So he sent back the card. So this is the first
back a card.
The card. So his birthday was in February, so she mailed him a birthday card, whatever it says on the inside of it. I don't know. He returned it unopened in another envelope with his birth certificate that just said "fuck you" on it.
No.
Yeah. And to me that just
with his birth certificate?
Yeah. So
a photocopy of it?
No, the original. So he's living in the U.S. now. So he's now he's basically said that is. If you just read the symbolism of that, he's adopted.
His birth certificate with
his name, the name that they gave him.
But don't birth certificates say the parent's name? So was it your mom's name on there? Or I see. Okay.
It'd be my mom's name and his dad and my dad's name. And it's just fuck you, you're not my mom. It didn't say anything else. It
just said fuck you.
Just fuck you. That's it.
How did you she told you this?
My sister told me.
She told your sister?
Yeah.
How was she when she was telling your sister? What was her... Was she really upset? Or?
So my mom is also somebody who does not... Okay, so if that happened to you, you would react like a normal person would say, what did I do? Yeah. What did I do to hurt you?
Yeah.
I must have hurt you. That's what I would say. I must have hurt you so much for that response. But her response was, well, I forgive him, and I'm going to send him a card, and since he doesn't open it, I'm just going to write on the outside, I forgive you, and send. That was her response. So the dynamics, the relationship, it's fucked, right? It's not the typical response. She was hurt by his reaction to,
does part of you want to reach out to him and
why?
Because the reason he is probably a dick his whole life to you is because he's got a lot of trauma and hurt, and he felt neglected and all that stuff that we talked about previously, right? So he had major defense mechanisms, and it manifested in him being a dick to you. Yeah. It's been many years. I wonder, doesn't a part of you go I want to have a conversation with him and see where he stands? Is he gonna treat me like shit?
So the last conversation, so he moved to the States in his 20s, right? He moved to Texas to become a cowboy or whatever the fuck he's doing. And like I said, he's the only person that I could say, I don't hate anybody, but he comes the closest. And
is it because you have such bad memories? What he was mean to you?
Even as an adult. So I'm married. I now have 2 kids. My babies are now I think the last conversation I had with him, he'd call me once a year. are now, 2 and 4. So it's been a long time, right? So Amanda's now 25 years old. So it's been a really long time. So he would call me and the conversations would go like this. This is what I'm doing. I'm so great. This is why I'm so great. And let me tell you another story about why I'm so great. Okay, we've been talking for an hour now. Talk to you later.
That's a defense thing.
Like,
though.
it's not a, oh, you have a baby? What's your baby's name?
Yeah.
Like, how's your husband? What's your life like? Where do you work? What's going? He did not. He's never had one moment like, and I do that. Like, how are you? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, what's your relationship like? Are you know what I mean? Like, I do that. I'm very nurturing, and I've always been kind to him. Like, I've always been kind. Like, and he's always been mean. Like, the relationship is him being abusive to me. Like, as kids, he would beat me up, throw me into the wall, call me names, belittle me. That's the relationship we had.
Yeah.
And then as adults, I'd be like, okay, I'm like putting this all aside. Like, I went to visit him once when he lived in California, and he was fighting with his wife. He was like hitting his stepchildren. Like, I'm just trying to paint you the dynamic of who he is. Like, asshole. Like, do I want to call him and say, how are you? Like,
okay, fair enough.
Like, would you want to?
No, I don't know any of the history. All I can think is like, he's probably like so fucking wounded from his trauma that
But
like,
doesn't it have to go beyond
well, you have to
that?
be responsible for your own healing and your own trauma, and you can only blame your past for so long.
Okay, but nature versus nurture. Once again, back to that topic. Like, since I do not have one happy memory, wouldn't this be partially to have to do with who he is as a person? Like, I don't know. Like,
no, I don't know, because he could be just so fucking traumatized from whatever kind of childhood he had, and the way that he I agree with the nature thing. He probably has it in him, like we were saying in that one episode, is that he's just that person who's going to be the victim and is going to feel sorry for himself. He's not one to rise above, right?
And aggressive and attack.
Right? Well, because that's a defense, though, right? Like when he, like in the animal world, if somebody is aggressive, it's because they're trying to defend themselves, right?
Yep.
So
generally,
like is there really any kind of animal or human who's just aggressive for like if they're not thinking that they're being attacked?
Humans?
But I think inside them somewhere they feel like they're being attacked and they need to defend.
And I know, like, so if, for instance, a lion will go into when they're trying to dominate a pride, the first thing they'll do is they'll go in, fight the other male, they'll kill that male, and then they will kill all the male cubs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, this is mine, territory. Mm-hmm. So we are animals are aggressive, right?
Yeah, fair enough. So there's aggression to show dominance for like
yeah.
Okay.
And animals do that.
Yeah, true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, I don't know, like, why as a child would my brother feel the need to constantly beat up his siblings, and like, why?
Because he's
my older brother.
Yeah.
So there was no like, generally, like, you see the relationship that you have with your children, and as the older child generally has a nurturing feeling towards the younger one.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, like, did he feel like I was chosen, and like obviously my parents used to say, we chose you, we adopted you, but there's some other bullshit in there too. Like, I don't remember my parents mistreating him. Like, they just brought us all four of us up the same way, and he was just a fucking dick, which makes me go, which was my original thought, nature versus nurture. So now I'm willing to go, okay.
I want to hear it from his point of view so bad.
I would too.
Is he going through his life being like, whatever, I'm just like better and bigger and stronger than everybody and everybody else sucks? Or is he, and a lot of people act this way and they don't realize it, but like the reason he's acting is because I'm so fucking hurt. I want to make sure people think I'm strong so they don't come for me.
So when I told Greg this story, I'm like, oh my God, this is, the first contact we've had with my brother in 20 years. And this is what he's done. And he said his life must suck so bad. Like, a happy person. No. Like, if you're living in a happy life and your life is amazing and you get a birthday card from your mom who you don't like, you go, yeah, whatever.
You just kind of laugh it off. Oh, whatever.
Or like that's probably your response, but only a very angry, very bitter, hurt person responds that way.
I 100% agree with you. Like,
so his life has got to suck. And Bernie, if you're listening to this, fuck you.
She doesn't mean that. Reach out. I want to talk to you. I hope you're okay.
No, really, seriously, fuck you.
Honestly, that's so crazy. It's that whole thing of everybody was a little baby at one point. So he came out of the womb and somebody looked at him. Well, I don't know actually, but like, this is what babies should. They should come out of the womb and somebody should be like, I love this little human so much. And when people don't get that, and it's just like breaks my heart.
I know. So back in the adoption time, so he's 2 years older than me. So he's 26. No. Anyways, back in the time, he would have been born 66. The adoption process back then was immediately remove the baby from the mom and take it into like a holding area for 2 weeks where you were not rocked or nurtured. You're sort of put in this giant nursery. So back to that whole, there's no bonding. So, the science behind this is that you're not loved in the womb. You're rejected because the mother often goes, I'm not going to love you. I'm not going to love you. I'm not going to love you. So she can give the baby up. So I believe a baby can feel that. Like,
I think I agree. And we've talked to, we know somebody who had a late in life pregnancy, and they said, I think one of the reasons that my baby has so many issues is because they could tell they weren't wanted in the womb.
I believe that is true. So you're not wanted in the womb. You're born, you're given away for 2 weeks where you're barely touched. Yeah. Right? And then and then you are given to, and you're thinking, well, it's fine because babies have no memory. But there's there's science behind that now that shows that human bonding, like that's why when your baby's born now, it's immediate skin to skin with the mom, right? Yeah. And you know what that feels like to have this naked baby.
And even with like the dad, like we did skin to skin with Kirsten too. Like it's so important. Like some of my favorite memories, obviously I had tons of skin to skin with my kids because I was nursing them, but like to see Kirsten laying on the couch with his shirt off and our baby's just on him, like I'm like, our kids are going to be okay. Yeah. They feel this love from both sides. Like, oh, it's like so good. Yeah. And the fact that kids don't have that, like, I just want to I want to take them all and like just hug them. Like there's like this fucking annoying kid who walks by our house all the time. Like, he's the worst.
Do you want to love that kid?
Sort of, because I'm like, there's a reason you're so fucking weird. It's probably because you don't get enough hugs or attention.
Like from what I'm learning, it often has to do with your early childhood traumas. Mm-hmm. So not having that skin to skin, not being loved enough. Like sexual trauma, like will fuck you up forever.
That's a whole nother bag of problems.
That's a whole, so I think that children, they need a bunch of stuff. And if you don't give it to them, like in that period where you need it, then they will crave it forever and they become these annoying little beasts. But there's a reason. And if you can kind of empathize and think there's a reason why this child is behaving this way, I think that we can have more sympathy, more empathy towards adults.
Well, and honestly, I do think of it that way. Like when I see somebody who's like really fucking annoying, or like just like somebody who, like your brother, I hear the story, I'm like, well, that guy sounds like an asshole. But my first thought is like, what's going on in his head? Because people don't go through life being like, I'm going to be a dick. Maybe they do, but like most people, they justify it for themselves. There's a reason I'm behaving this way. And there's lots of things that could be playing factors, like lack of self-awareness, lack of education, but all of those things, it's like, you can't work on yourself if you are so broken. Like, I don't know. It's so easy for me to think like, well, just fucking figure out your issues and deal with them. But it's not that
It's
easy.
not.
It's not. But I'm like, get him some therapy. I don't know.
And I agree. But as a person who had to live with somebody like that.
Well, you have trauma based around him,
I have trauma based on living with him.
Yeah.
Like, imagine living with somebody. So, I mean, my mom, right? Who is, you're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And then I have a brother who's putting that exclamation mark on that. Yeah. Like, the two of them would work together. Really. Like, this is the way it would go. And I think I've told you this, that my mom would say, Monica or Bernie, don't you think Monica is beautiful? And then Bernie would say, no, she's a fat fucking pig. And then it was like, don't say that. You know what I mean? Like, there was this, like, you feel like someone is like throwing them the ball. Like my mom would throw him a ball, he would bat it out, and it'd be like, "Rah, we did it again!"
And
like,
I would smack you in the
and
face,
then smack me, and like so you'd brace yourself. So my mom would say, "Bernie, don't you think Monica's beautiful?" And then I'd have this visceral like clench for the.
This explains like, and then you marry a guy who like completely like manipulates, and like it's just fucking.
Well, you know what? Patterns of behavior there. And as I've gotten older, I've really learned to recognize as human beings, we do the things we do because of past trauma.
It's like what you're comfortable with, like what you're used to, what your relationships that you're used to having. You just like go for those because it's comfortable.
Yeah. And so
or you know it. Yeah. I know how to behave in this.
I know how to behave in this situation.
So I'll just find more of
And so you become used to being abused. And so that becomes like a normal. So as somebody like you, like if you grow up in a family where you're never talking to harshly, or you would never put up with that in a partner, the first sign you'd be like, what the fuck you. But if this is your daily, then you'd be like, oh, well, this is the way families work.
Yeah.
You know?
Ugh, it just seriously makes me like be like, I need to do better with like watching what I say. Like I know I'm not like abusive to my kids or anything, but I get angry sometimes and I'm like, you're so slow, put your shoes on. Like, and I know those are terrible examples. That's probably not traumatizing.
And so slow isn't bad, but you're so stupid, dumb.
No, like, I would never say that to me.
You know, but there are definitely there are trigger words that people use, and being somebody who's been triggered, like I hear those and I'm like, oh, like I tell you right away, like, Amanda, you're fucking up, like. But we all do, like, you're fucking human.
But yeah, I think like just oh my god, with my own, I hear these stories and I'm like, I just want to like hug my kids, like like seriously. So like Kenna had to go get her vaccination yesterday, not the COVID one, like just like between the ages of 4 and 6 you have to get your last one, whatever, before school. So she is a champ, by the way. I took Colton for his and he lost his damn mind. He was screaming and crying the whole time. Like it was even though I'm like,
and your responance to that was it suck it up?
No. I was good fucker. Because I understand. I could see in his eyes how scared he was. So I was like, I did good that time. Good, but that was last year. Yeah. But anyway, so it was Kenna's turn. And I was like, hey, Colton, like, can you do me a favor? Like, let's amp your sister up for this, whatever. Tell her it's not so bad. He goes, I can't lie to her. It was so scary. Anyway, so I'm like, well, you're no help. Get out of here. So I'm like, Kenna, today we're going to have to go do. And she's like, a needle? Like, she was really scared. But I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's only going to hurt for a second and then you'll be okay. And blah, blah, blah. We'll go get ice cream after. She's like, okay. So we go and she just like fucking killed it, by the way. She got 3 needles and just said, ouch, each time. That was
it. The MMR vaccine?
Yeah. There was like, and then I got her the flu one because they were offering it, and then one of the other ones too. But anyway, so she's on my lap, and I'm just like holding her and like holding her hand, and she's like playing with my fingers, and I'm just like, I'm so happy that I'm here for this fucking kid. And then she was like kind of like tired all day, which is like a side effect of it. Just kind of like, and like, so we just like, I cuddled with her most of the day yesterday, and I'm just like so happy to do that with my kid, you know, like I've got both kids on me watching a movie, just like hanging out, and I'm like, so many kids don't have this, and like I am not the best. I don't often like cuddle my, I cuddle them every single day.
When they need it, you do.
But I'm like, I'm just so happy that my kids and like they have like their dad, and like, but so many people don't. It's just like,
doesn't it make you want to just adopt them all?
It honestly does. Like, I see my friend works in she's a social worker, and I don't know how she does that job. Like, to see kids in that, she has to like distance herself from it and remove herself from it, because you can't take that kind of stuff home.
Because you'd want to take all them babies home.
I can't even imagine. I would take home all of those problems, and I would be like thinking about how I could fix this and like which kid I could take home. Like I would be so bad at that job. So bad.
Not only that, but then you take home a child with like
FAS,
like problems you don't know how to deal with. Like it is like this, like you think that and I've heard this from children that were adopted out. Yeah. That I had one of my son's friends live with me for almost a year, and his story was he was given into foster care, adopted at 6 years old, him and his sister, and the parents were very Christian, and they expected him to be grateful. You know, like, why aren't you grateful that I've adopted you? But all you feel is, I have been given away 3 times, and I can't attach to you.
Yeah.
You know, and then they threw him out for not obeying the rules. Like, you need to be home by, like, they had these strict rules, and he just felt unloved, unwanted.
That kid's probably
his life. That was his
issues
life.
as an adult. Like that's
and I just
terrible.
he was 17 when he came to live with me, and I just wanted to love him.
Yeah, like,
you
what
know?
do you need? Like, do you want to sit on the couch and tell me your problems? I'll listen. But the thing is, at that point now, he's probably so fucked up. He's like, I'm not fucking connecting to anyone, you know?
He was, you know, like, he was a kind boy. Like, I could tell, like, my son was having enough of it. Like, my son, of course, was 17, and he was at that point, and he was like, I want Deshaun to move out. Like, that was his name. I want him to move out. I'm done. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, so we had to, like, find another place for him to live because my son lives there too. I can't say your friend's going to live with you, with, you know, whether you like it or
forever.
not. Oh,
I hate hearing stories about poor neglected children. It breaks my heart.
I know. What a sad episode.
Way to go.
Way to go.
Okay, let's do a wine and what the fuck.
Let's do it. Welcome to our favorite segment of wine and
what the fuck? So I found one. I know you're the wine and what the fuck person. Oh wait, we gotta talk. I always forget about the wine.
So this wine, Amanda, this is my favorite bottle of wine.
You're gonna give me a good bottle?
Yeah, this is my favorite bottle of wine. So, you know, normally you're only worth $6, so you can only have one glass of this.
Okay.
This is an Amarone. And Amarone is made in Italy. I think that's a type of grape. I don't know. I don't know anything about wine. All I know is that when I drink this wine, I get a little wet. And like, it is just like one of those things that you put it in your mouth and you hold it and you're like, what the fuck? Like, this is the what the fuck of wine for me. And this bottle, I think at Costco liquor stores, somewhere around $39.
Okay.
So if you hit like a regular liquor store, somewhere $45, $50.
Okay.
So this bottle of wine, like I said, it is my go-to. I can't not fucking believe how amazing this wine is.
Well, I'm happy that you're opening it for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Let's try
give it a go and tell me if you also love the wine. Whoa! That's what this wine does. It goes, whoa! Like, you can tell me you can't taste the difference between
this and a $6 bottle. Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still not ready to commit to
No. I definitely have been. I gotta up my game because I'm starting to, even the box, I've got a box open at home and it's just not hitting the same spot.
We need to start doing some like wine pairing shit or something. We need to become more knowledgeable so we can spread our knowledge onto the world.
We really should, instead of just being like, it smells like poison or it makes me wet.
I think that those are qualities that our
That's
audience,
scale.
but our audience probably relates to it. So if I say it tastes like poison, the audience goes, okay, I know what she's talking about. That's like that food poisoning I got that one time at Jack in the Box. And, and if I say, oh my God, it makes me wet, it's like, oh, that's damn good wine. I should get that. You know, right?
It's true.
So what the fuck? You've got the what the fuck today.
I got the
Let's
what
do
the
it.
fuck. Okay, so our oldest daughter is nearing 40 and she's frustrated by her lack of prospects in having a husband, a home, and a child. Her standards are profoundly high, must make 6 figures, be 6 feet tall, no previous marriage or children. She's divorced herself. She's a very driven career woman and she works 60 hours a week regularly. She announced to her father and me that she will be proceeding forward as a single mother and getting a sperm donation. We are very happy but hesitant. That quickly turned to horror when our daughter told us that she was looking to move back home with us. Her expectations were that I would be taking care of the baby while she continued her career normally. I love my children and I love my grandchildren, but I'm done raising babies. My husband and I are nearing retirement and have plans that do not include diapers and midnight feedings. We told our daughter this would not be possible and she became upset. She accused us of being selfish and denying her the chance of being a mother. My husband lost his temper and told her that the only one being selfish was her. She's the one making the choice to have a child and demanding everybody rearrange their lives over it. At this point, our daughter is no longer talking to us, but is speaking to her siblings. She is proceeding with her plan and has an appointment at the clinic. If this works, this will be our first biological grandchild. Our son married a woman with older children. It breaks my heart that we might miss this. We tried reaching out to our daughter, but no response. She can carry a grudge to the grave. What can we do here?
Oh, Like, it kind of makes me, the first thing I think about there is, how did you raise your daughter?
Well,
like, back to our
yeah.
conversation of last week when we were talking about,
the tantrums. Letting your kids, she was allowed to have tantrums, I bet.
I bet she was. And this whole, like, first of all, this entitlement that she has that she's 40 and wants somebody with 6 figures, like, immediately going, well, you're not going to find that.
Yeah, with no previous children, no baggage.
Like, she wants to find Prince Charming who doesn't exist. Like, somehow she's got this crazy checklist, and women who do that, like, it's not possible. Like, if you want to find a partner, find somebody who makes you laugh. Yeah. Find somebody who, when you're with them, brings you joy. Yeah. Don't look for the 6-figure income. Like, fuck that. Like, fuck you.
Fuck you. And the entitlement, just that feeling of like, okay, well, I'm going to have this kid. I'll do it by myself. But
she doesn't mean that.
It'll be fine because my mom will be my childcare. I won't even have to pay for daycare. Like, the fact that that's even an option in your head is crazy to me. But it also, I wanted to kind of segue this into the conversation of when we do too much for our children, what happens to the kids?
Yeah.
So I think we've touched on this before, maybe on a different time we recorded together, but it was the idea of like writing your kid's resume, sending out their...
Oh, I've done that. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, and I think a lot of parents in kind of like in even my generation, when we're raising our kids, we want our kids to do well. We want them to succeed. So we end up doing things.
Doing everything.
I noticed it even when I took McKenna to get her vaccinations recently. The woman was asking her questions and she's 4. So it takes her a while to come up with answers. So like, do you drink milk? And I wanted to be like, yes, you drink. You know what I mean? I'm answering for my child. And
were you?
No, because I actively stopped myself. But I always do that. Like if we're like out and about with my kids and somebody is like, oh, hi, what's your name? Her name's McKenna. Because I'm like, I don't want to wait for you to answer. And it's just faster if I say it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like this whole thing of, and these are 4 and 6-year-olds. So like the problems are only going to get worse. It's like helping with school projects. I've already gotten an email from my grade 1 son's teacher. We have this project. We need pictures of your family, blah, blah, blah. He's going to do a project on it or whatever. But I'm like making sure I do the best job because I want it. I'm like, and I'm like, it's starting already.
Failure is super important.
Yes.
So it's, you know what? It's okay to help your kids when they need it. And there are times in their life, like when my son isn't working and I needed him to get off the couch, it's helping me.
But you know, fair enough. But I think like, you know, parents of the past would never.
No.
So it definitely, I don't want to say helicopter parenting because I don't think that's the right term. Like, what is the right term?
So, but this what's going on, what I'm seeing is that this child has never wanted for anything.
Yeah.
So she was, given a car on her 60th. I mean, I don't know, but this is the way that I see it. Like she was raised, that you will get whatever you want. You'll get what you want for your birthday and for Christmas. And if you throw a temper tantrum, we'll find a way to get what you want because you're daddy's princess and you should always get what you want. And then she obviously went to university and was paid. Everything was paid. There's no struggle. Yeah. And I think honestly, that struggle in your life is important. And we don't want our kids to struggle. And so we do whatever we can so that they don't. But they need to go outside and fall off the playground equipment. Yeah. They need their best friend Billy to punch them in the face. They need these experiences to know how to handle life. To know that things are not just handed to you. Yeah. Things are not perfect. Life is messy.
I think certain people have this relationship with their parents, though, of I didn't ask to be born. I've heard people say this before. I didn't ask to be born, so, like, you have to do things for me. So, like, I wonder if that's what she's thinking of, like, of course, like, you're gonna deny me the ability to have a baby because you're too selfish to take care of my kid. Like, why wouldn't you want to? It's your grandchild. Like, that's what she's thinking is like, it would be your grandchild. You are so lucky that you get to spend time with this child. And like, you're giving me your daughter, your everything. Because some people think of like, if you make your kids think that they're your everything.
Yeah.
They're going to go through life thinking that, right? Well, and they feel this entitlement.
Yeah, this particular person has lost the ability to have any empathy. The only person that she's thinking about in this situation is herself.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of it's a very typical narcissistic reaction. Like the reaction is not, how are my actions going to make you feel?
Yeah.
It's how do my actions make me feel? And then if you react,
Yeah.
I'm also just thinking about how I
Yeah.
feel. So you're like the one person in the world that matters. There's bright shining stars on you. And nothing else matters. So that the child that she raises is also going to be fucked because it's also about that child will be raised as how she will be made to make her look. Right? So dressed in the pretty dresses and, you know, you have no personality.
Yeah,
and,
you're just my little sidekick.
Yeah.
The fact that she's now punishing her parents too, it's kind of what we talked about previously, I think on last week's episode of that you didn't give me what I wanted, so now I'm not going to return your calls.
But once again, back to human nature, if I can fast forward that into the future, the parents are doing this thing right now where they're like, we're texting and we're calling and we want you in our life. And there'll be a bit of, I'm guessing they're going to cave, maybe not.
Yeah.
But that daughter, if she does conceive and has this baby, is going to be thrown into the what the fuck did I do? And she'll be calling those parents like there's not a chance in hell that she's not going to reach out to them because she's going to need something from them. And that's when a narcissist will contact you back.
So funny to think, like, before you have kids, you don't realize the level of work it is. It's kind of like, well, you're gonna have a couple kids,
it's
and you
gonna
know,
be so great.
It'll be so fun. I'll just like have this lovely relationship, and you don't really think of everything else involved. But my sister told me the story. She was hanging out with this like mutual friend of ours one time, and the girl like wasn't pregnant yet or didn't have a boyfriend or anything. But she goes, "Of course I want to have kids." She's like, "I'll just have kids, get the money from the government as a single mom, and then my grandma will help me raise it." And she was serious, and my sister's sitting there going, "That's your plan?"
Wow.
Like, that's like, you're actually saying this to people? Like, and you're not making a joke? Like, she was like, well, fuck, you make a lot of money as a single mom from the government, so I'll get that money, and then, like, I'll live with my grandma.
You don't get that much. With $500 a kid or something?
It's the most insane way of reasoning you've ever heard, but, like, it's kind of fucked up that, like, people think that way. Like, it's not like she's the only one who's ever thought that.
You know, I often think that is why some people become foster parents because how much do you get for foster? Like I knew somebody in BC, and the harder a child was, the more you got. So I think high needs children, you often get $1,500 a month. So if you can get 4 high needs children in your home.
When I was in high school, I was good friends with this girl who had. There was 5 of them, like, biological children, but a few of them had grown up, and then there was only, like, 3 left living in the house, and then there was 4 or 5 foster kids, and we would go over there, and those foster kids were their slaves. They were always doing all of the work, whatever, and they were the high needs kids. Like, there was a couple that were, like, the little ones that were... just like the cute foster kids that were there to like be cute. But then there was the middle kids who were the ones who did all the dishes. They did all the cleaning. They did all the cooking. They did all like, it was, I remember even as a 15-year-old being like, this is actually really weird. Like, are you guys doing this for the money? Like my 15-year-old brain could think that way.
It's tragic.
But it's really, cause they're like, whatever, we're helping these kids out. Like that's the way they justify it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The foster system is broken. I've heard some really horrific stories about it.
Me too. In Canadian foster system too. Like I've heard some insane, very heartbreaking stories. Yeah. It's broken.
It's absolutely broken. I don't know what the answer is. Like I listened to this whole podcast one time on it was a Calgary story, I think, about I'm not going to get into the whole story because it's pretty long, but essentially like this foster mom was insanely abusive, like locked the kid in his bedroom, made him drink liquid soap as a punishment and stuff. And you fast forward years into the future and a bunch of other shit happened to him too. He ended up in a different foster home and got abused. And like, that was what the story was about. But then they kind of touched on his first foster home. And I was like, that's really fucked up. But anyway, so he, as in telling his sexual abuse story, he brought up, you know, and then the other home I was in, I also like was meant to hold soap in my mouth and blah, blah, locked in a room, all this shit. They ended up kind of like going after her, but because it was so long ago and they didn't really have any legit proof other than the fact that his teeth had all fallen out because of the soap thing, she got like, I don't know, a year probation and I don't know, I've said it on record somewhere. I can't remember it was like I want to say a $500 fine, but it might have been like a 100. It was like a processing fee of the like court. Like it was like the smallest fine you could it was like a drip in the bucket.
Okay, well, I got one that's even worse because I recently talked to a guy who went through the whole foster care system from the time he was a baby. Sexual abuse, and so he was basically sexually trafficked in his foster home in British Columbia on Vancouver Island.
Okay.
He was trafficked, and so they would have people come in and sexually abuse him. And the father got sent to prison. The social worker got sent to prison because she was in on it.
No.
And the mom got to remain a foster parent and is still a foster parent to this day because she said she didn't know. She didn't know what was going on. So to this day...
Did she know? Like,
Well, of course she did. You have, like, 4 children.
Well, yeah, of course you did. But, yeah, oh, fuck.
So
there's no way. How is that? That should not be legal.
Yeah, and so this child...
It happened in your house, and you don't...
Yeah, so she's still a foster parent right now. Right fucking now. She's fostering children today. So you tell me that system isn't broken. Like, it just
But the
makes me so
problem
mad.
is like... There's a need for foster parents, and there must not be enough people who want to do it or are able to do it.
Think about the type of person you need to hang on to a child who has sexual trauma. Like, they are having temper tantrums, they're high needs, they're screaming, and it also, like, think about a predator. Like, you think about who a predator is, like, oh, well, we'll just get these children who nobody loves. And, like, it just fucking breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
How do we keep ending up on these depressing
I don't
topics?
know. Why are we talking about blowjobs? Next topic, blowjobs. Tune in.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you're not too depressed after this episode.
Yeah, don't try to kill yourself after this. You can find us on all socials, on Facebook, on YouTube, Instagram. Look us up.
Go join our Facebook group. We have lots of conversations. We can actually maybe open up a discussion about this very topic. People might have stuff to say. Wait, that's too depressing. We like more fun stuff.
Yeah. But we talk about all kinds of things. Nothing's off limits. So if you want to reach out to us and start a conversation, do it.
Yeah, and go to YouTube and subscribe. Hit the little bell notification. You'll get notified every time we release new videos, which is weekly. Usually a few of them go up. So
exactly.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to It's Really None of Our Business podcast with Monica and Amanda. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you know all the places. If you've enjoyed this podcast, tell your friends, and please rate and review us where you can. If you are brave enough to reach out and ask us for advice, we will definitely read it out on our show. We'll totally keep your name anonymous, so what do you got to lose? You can reach us by email at ask.noneofourbusiness@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you guys soon. Ciao.